This is the WWE Smackdown February 7, 2025 full show results video which takes place at FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. Main event Jey Uso makes his usual incredibly over entrance through the crowd and he spends several minutes soaking in the adoration of the crowd and generally enjoying the moment. He says he had a hell of a week, a lot of love from family, friends, and fans, in the wake of winning the 2025 Royal Rumble. He says he's here to pick a champion and mentions his visit to Raw to see Gunther and says it's only right that he come here to SmackDown and meet up with his dog, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Then comes Cody Rhodes and he embraces Jey before picking his title back up and getting to business on the mic. He says he thinks he already knows what everybody wants to talk about, and Jey says everybody knows what they're here to talk about. He can stand across from Cody on the grandest stage of them all, and that would mean a lot to him, or he can stand next to him, with Rhodes as WWE Undisputed Championship and himself as the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Cody says it's quite a choice to make and he spoke to his doctor his week and he's got fluid on the elbow that needs draining, a hip out of alignment, a bunch of lower back medical jargon. His doctor is a nice guy but he's not WWE Champion. But he left out a good diagnosis, how full his heart is and how proud he is of Jey for winning the Royal Rumble. He knows it's his choice and having had his choice taken away from him, this is his WrestleMania and they've had good moments together, winning tag gold, a libation or two, and this arena is right off of Beale Street so they could do that all over again tonight. But for this title reign to be complete, he needs to win at WrestleMania, and that means that tonight, if Jey chooses him, tonight will have to be the last time, if he catches his meaning. Then comes Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and Fatu gets on the mic and says last year Cody took that title from his family, but as of now, his family needs the title back. And everybody understands that if someone from the family is going to take that title back, everybody knows it's now Jey's ass. A brawl breaks out, Jacob has him set up, Jey cuts him off with a super kick, Cody cutter connects and the heels are sent packing. Then we saw the Elimination Chamber qualifying match between Bianca Belair versus Piper Niven, and the result of this match was Bianca Belair defeated Piper Niven by pinfall with KOD, qualifying for the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Carmelo Hayes is in Nick Aldis' office and he says unless this is about an opportunity he doesn't want to hear it. Aldis says Adam Pearce has a raw talent that he wants Hayes to wrestle. Carmelo is upset, and Akira Tozawa walks in and Nick explains that since Melo cost him his spot in the Royal Rumble and thus potentially the main event of WrestleMania, it's only fair that they wrestle. Hayes changes his tune and claims it's gonna be a layup, to which Akira says it'll be an airball and Melo sputters and leaves. DIY are in the ring and get on the mic and Johnny Gargano says they beat Motor City Machine Guns twice at Royal Rumble and that makes them the best tag team in the world. Tommaso Ciampa adds that it's safe to say that the chances of Motor City Machine Guns ever holding the tag titles again are officially dead. And it's hard because they have nothing but respect for those two independent legends, and 11 years ago they were their favorite tag team. They lead us all in standing up, taking our hats off, and bowing our heads in silence, and then comes Pretty Deadly, who want recognition for everything they've done to help DIY keep their titles. DIY cut them off and Nick Aldis comes to the ring and says with all of DIY's shenanigans lately they don't get a say in what happens with the tag titles and if Pretty Deadly want a title shot he'll give them a chance if they can beat DIY. Then we saw a match between DIY versus Pretty Deadly, and the result of this match was Pretty Deadly defeated DIY by pinfall with an O'Connor roll and a hand on the ropes from Elton Prince on Tommaso Ciampa, earning themselves a future tag title match. Back from the commercial, The Miz is again making the case that Andrade El Idolo could learn a lot from him. Andrade says he did learn a lot from him, in fact, how to beat him. Cody Rhodes rolls up and Miz complains about the kids these days and says he'll always have Cody's back and Rhodes says he doesn't need him to have his back. Miz says he gets it, it's WrestleMania season and last year everyone was behind him but now they're all behind Jey Uso, and he thinks Uso Rhodes is a hell of a story. Drew McIntyre makes his entrance and gets on the mic and he says screw Raw, he's officially back on SmackDown. After he got eliminated in the Royal Rumble he was pretty angry and he drove back to Nashville and slept in his own bed full of rage and then he had clarity and got out of his big bed next to his hot wife and looked in the mirror and said, "My God, you're jacked and handsome Drew, why are you so upset?" He blames a hostile working environment at Raw for his attitude of the last year or so and says Adam Pearce is incompetent but he and Nick Aldis have been friends since they were teenagers and now he'll be able to be unleashed 100% and why is he here? He's here for Cody, or, more specifically, what he's got that was stolen from him, the WWE Championship. Then comes Big Jim Uso and he says Drew is out here living in the past every week sounding like an ex-girlfriend with all his complaining. Nobody stole anything from him, he lost. He's standing out here acting like he doesn't have to get through him and LA Knight to earn his spot. Drew says that's cool, but he's not angry about this stuff anymore. He's a different man. He calls him Jay before correcting himself and saying that must eat him up inside that they're so similar and maybe he'd be where Jay is. He just said yeet first. Jim says he doesn't understand. He's the big brother. He can say yeet. He can say no yeet. He's gonna go to Vegas and cash his chips in. He's living in the present and he's gonna kick Drew's ass and go to WrestleMania, and then comes LA Knight. He says he wants to effect good change in his life, so he wants to speak to all the men and boys here and around the world, and if something arises in your life and hits your feels and you want to cry, let it out. It doesn't make you any less of a man, but there's a line where it becomes too much. There are 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Drew McIntyre crying like a baby. He calls him Drew McIntyre and gets his stuff in. Then we saw the Elimination Chamber qualifying match between Drew McIntyre versus Jim Uso versus LA Knight, and the result of this match was Drew McIntyre won the match by pinfall with Claymore on LA Knight, qualifying for the men's Elimination Chamber match. Damian Priest is interviewed backstage and he talks about Elimination Chamber, but Braun Strowman rolls up to tell him he shouldn't get ahead of himself because he's gotta beat both him and Jacob Fatu in a qualifier first. Damian says he knows all that, but he's gonna win. Strowman says he doesn't think he full understands that he's in the ring with a wild animal and a monster next week. Back from the commercial, we get a recap of Kevin Owens hitting a package piledriver on Sami Zayn. Kevin sends in a promo from his car about how he and Sami have been through a lot, but nothing like Saturday. The scar on his face, the trauma in his neck and spine, the pain he feels now will probably never go away and he'll have to live with that. And it's all Sami's fault, because he stood and watched and he calls Zayn a horrible friend and a disgusting human being who he'll never forgive, but who he will make pay. The next match happened between Akira Tozawa versus Carmelo Hayes, and the result of this match was Carmelo Hayes defeated Akira Tozawa by pinfall with nothing but net. R-Truth is helping Akira Tozawa in the back until he sees Jey Uso and literally drops him to run over and congrats Uso on winning King of the Ring. Jay corrects him and tells him to go check on Tozawa, which Truth does with a cry of he yeeted on himself, and Cody Rhodes rolls up to check in and Jay says he's still undecided. Charlotte Flair makes her entrance and gets on the mic and she asks Memphis if they love her or hate her and says boos sound like money. She lives rent-free in everyone's minds, wrestling's obsession, and we're obsessed with her looks, her championships, her last name, everything Charlotte Flair. She knows we all think that she thinks that because her last name is Flair she's better than everyone, but that's not the only reason she thinks she's better than everyone. Did you really think she was gonna miss 14 months and not come back and win the Royal Rumble? She says she went to Raw to see Rhea Ripley and to NXT to see Julia, and now she's here she wants to see Tiffany Stratton. Then comes Tiffany Stratton and she says nobody is a bigger Charlotte Flair fan than her, but when she got hurt everybody cared for like a day, but then she came along and ticket sales went up and WWE is hotter than ever and she's on top of all that. Flair turns and asks if she said something and tells her to speak when told she can speak. Stratton talks about being compared to Charlotte and tells her to pick her because then she'll win and she won't be the next Charlotte Flair but the one and only Tiffany Stratton. Charlotte calls her a child begging to be seen as a star and tells her to get on her hands and knees and beg if she wants her to challenge her at WrestleMania. Then comes Nia Jax, flanked by Candice LeRae, and she says this blondie back and forth is cute and all, but it's a little premature because she's gonna be champion again. She spoke to Nick Aldis and he agreed that she should get a rematch for the title next week. Flair says this is interesting and she's gonna stick around next week to see what happens, and then comes Alexa Bliss, ready for her qualifying match. Then we saw an Elimination Chamber qualifying match between Alexa Bliss versus Candice LeRae, and the result of this match was Alexa Bliss defeated Candice LeRae by pinfall with a square hammer DDT. Byron Saxton interviews Chelsea Green and Piper Niven backstage, and Green says it's when not if she wins at Elimination Chamber and becomes a double champion at WrestleMania. B-Fab and Mia Yim roll up to air grievances at Green and Niven. Chelsea calls her nasty and then Zelina Vega rolls up to Angle for a title shot. Back from the commercial, Street Profits cut a promo about how they're officially pissed off with all these strangers coming in and taking their opportunities and tag teams splitting up only to come back together because they don't have any other options. Byron Saxton interviews Motor City Machine Guns backstage, and before they can say much of anything Los Garza roll up and it becomes a big argument and challenges are issued and accepted. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between American Nightmare Cody Rhodes and main event Jey Uso versus Samoan Werewolf Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, and the result of this match was Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso won the match by pinfall with crossroads from Rhodes on Tama Tonga. Post-match, a hoodie man attacked Cody Rhodes, and it was solo Sikoa. Sikoa stands tall over Cody Rhodes, and the show goes off the air. How much you would rate this week's SmackDown show? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.